The Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Now this is the black sheep of the franchise. This is one of the oddities out there. And we're going to talk about the differences between this and other Zelda games. Now, does that make it a bad game? No. And you're actually going to see during the NES era, there's actually a lot of black sheep games. Simon's Quest, Final Fantasy II, Zelda 2. And it's just because these games didn't have their identity yet. The first ones are so iconic that they want to make a sequel, but they don't know what to do. Should they just repeat themselves? Should they try something new? And that's what they usually try to do with these quote-unquote black sheep games. And it's very bold of Nintendo and these other companies for trying something new. Now, let's talk about this game and how it's different than other Zeldas. So instead of a top-down view, or actually a 3D perspective, you have this side-scrolling, platforming, action-adventure game. Now, is that bad? Is that wrong? No. Does it make it a bad game? Not at all. And the crazy thing is, you have to grind like it is an RPG. Zelda is not a true RPG. Now, you can make the argument that after each boss battle, you get a heart, you also get new items, new abilities, and you quote-unquote level up. But in this game, you have to grind. You have to fight these random encounters in order to get experience points, level up your life, your magic, and just continue on through the game, getting stronger and stronger. Is that bad? No. I actually kind of like it. I like grinding. And I used to grind a lot back in the day on these JRPGs. And Zelda 2 is just taking from that. Now, again, this is a platformer, side-scrolling RPG game. And Link, he's basically trying to wake Zelda up from her sleep and defeat Ganon. Now, along the way, you're going to be going through different dungeons, you're going to be going through different labyrinths, and the game is fairly difficult. This is a very difficult game. You have to grind, you have to increase your power. If you want to go anywhere in this game, you have to get new items. And I'm going to tell you guys my preferred way to play this game, and it's not on the NES. It's not on the NES Classic, and I'll share that with you guys here in a second. Now, just a few things. The soundtrack. Okay, the soundtrack, in my opinion, has actually outlived the game and the gameplay. Whenever you think of Zelda, you think of this music, and it is iconic. I actually used it in the opening of every single NES Classic Edition review. And I love that music. It makes me think of Zelda immediately. It makes me think of Link immediately. It's that iconic, that theme, and just the soundtrack. It's so good. Now, let's talk about my preferred way to play this game. I've talked about it a few times on a few other reviews. The NES Remix 1 and 2. Now, this particular game is actually on the NES Remix 2, and the first one's on 1. So, why do I prefer to play it on the NES Remix 2? So, it's on the Wii U, and actually on the 3DS or 2DS, however you want to play it. And it's really neat how they do it. They take a bunch of old NES games, and it's like a Reader's Digest version of each game. And you play through certain little parts of the game. You have certain challenges you have to complete. Like, for example, you had to play like part of a dungeon without losing a certain amount of lives, make it through. And there's just certain challenges that you had to do to make it through the game. And I love it. And Zelda 2 is on there. You can literally play through Zelda 2, and here I am error. Very, very famous I am error. I had to show that in this video. But anyway, NES Remix 2, you can literally play through Zelda 2, the highlights. You can beat the bosses, you can play through some of the dungeons, and you're gonna get a good sampling, a very good taste of Zelda 2. And you actually get to fight Dark Link at the end. Okay, that's the last challenge on the remix. So that's kind of like my little mini review of the NES Remix games. Also, there's a ton of other great NES games on there that you can check out, play, and kind of get a quote-unquote Reader's Digest version of each NES game if you don't have the complete time to play through these old games. So, more about Zelda 2. Again, the RPG elements I like, but I can leave them. I prefer Zelda 1, and I also prefer A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds, obviously, when it comes to classic Zelda. Okay, now I'm not going to compare this game to Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess or any of those games. That would be unfair. Those are completely different games. Those are completely different ways to play Zelda. So I'm not going to do that. So there are actually other games like this on the NES. This game was fairly popular back in the day. This game was a console seller again. And here's the thing. There was Rambo. Oddly enough, was a Zelda 2 clone, and another really, really, really good underrated game on the NES, Battle of Olympus. If you have not played Battle of Olympus, try to track it down. I think it runs anywhere from 15 to 20 bucks. It's been a while since I've looked, but it plays almost just like this game, and basically you have to level up. You have to grind, and you upgrade your character and fight bosses. It's a lot of fun. And actually, I kind of think it's better than Zelda 2 in some regards. Well, anyway, those are some suggestions if you kind of like this game. Now let's talk, does this game belong on the NES Classic Edition? I think you have to have this game. You have to have this game on the NES Classic Edition, whether you like it or not. Because it is a Zelda game. A Zelda game. So, on the Super NES Classic, you had A Link to the Past. I think if there's a Nintendo 64 Classic Edition, you're going to have Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. It's just plain and simple. Whenever you have these, Zelda is usually one of the main selling points for these classic sets. When you see Zelda on there, oh, I gotta have it, I gotta have it. I love Zelda. So again, it has to be on there. Is it a good game? Yes and no. Does it belong in there full-heartedly? Yes and no. I'm kind of wishy-washy on this. Okay, is it a true Zelda game? Yes, absolutely. I will say this about Zelda 2. It's better than Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. I cannot play those games, guys. I cannot. This is more of a Zelda game than those are. Plain and simple, because you can use a D-pad. Those games you cannot. You cannot. You have to use the stupid stylus. And it just ruined my experience with those games. Also, with Twilight Princess on the Wii, the motion controls, I cannot get into it. When you force me to have to do something else besides use a D-pad or a joystick or thumb pad, I don't really want to play it. Maybe I'm old and stubborn and just archaic, but still, I want to play Zelda the old-fashioned way. That's just me. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you've been enjoying this month. This month's about over for reviewing NES Classic Edition games. Got one more left. If you're keeping track, you already know what's ahead. and I'm saving the best for last, in my opinion. And guys, if you have not subscribed to me, please do so. That's going to put you in the running for an NES Classic Edition from me. I'm giving away after they re-release them on the 29th. Subscribe, that's it, and you're going to be included in the drawing. I'm also giving away some Sega Genesis stuff, Sega Genesis Classics on the PlayStation 4, and the Sega Genesis collection on the PlayStation 3. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. That's all you gotta do. One last thought. You know, I didn't mention any childhood memories. The only real childhood memories I have of this game, I played this game more as a teenager than anything. I might have played it as a kid, but I have no memory of it. And this game always intrigued me because it was Zelda. Anything Zelda, I was just interested in, intrigued by, and I tracked this down. I did a trade with my buddy Mitch, and I got Zelda 2, the gold cartridge, and I remember it's like, man, I got a gold cartridge, and to me back then that meant, oh, it's rarer, it's more rare. In reality, the gray cartridge is actually more rare and hard to find than this particular, well, that particular cartridge, I should say. And I did play this and just had kind of a hard time with it. Didn't like the grinding. And then I played it again in college and as an adult and truly enjoyed it. Truly enjoyed it. So, again, let me know what your thoughts are on this Zelda game. Do you think it is the black sheep of the family? And do you think it deserves a spot on the NES Classic Edition? Well, guys, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of this footage. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day.